Hello, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Thank you for joining us. President Biden is about to deliver remarks in New Hampshire touting the bipartisan infrastructure bill he signed into law yesterday. It is the first of several visits he and cabinet members are making across the U.S. to push the White House line of how the package will impact communities and the economy. The president is looking to notch another legislative victory this week. House Democrats are hoping to vote on their social and climate spending bill in the coming days, as lawmakers eagerly await a nonpartisan report on its estimated cost. Some moderate Democrats say they need to see the findings before voting on the nearly $2 trillion deal. Joining me now to discuss the latest in Washington is Nikole, Killion, and Alex Gangitano. Nikole is a CBS News congressional correspondent, and Alex is a White House correspondent for The Hill. Welcome to both of you. Alex, let me begin with you. President Biden says these spending packages could help ease inflation in the long term. What's the president's argument for that?
It's a good question. So the president is arriving in New Hampshire, as you mentioned, roughly around now. And the White House has really touted that inflation concerns can actually be helped by the bipartisan infrastructure deal and the Build Back Better agenda. That those two pieces of legislation could help cut costs for American people over the long term and reduce inflation. And I think their reasoning is that they're all about these bills creating jobs, especially what we saw in the signing ceremony yesterday. The president and his political allies like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi really were touting jobs, jobs, jobs out of this bill so that it could get Americans back to work and the economy running again. I don't know if that argument is really going to stick with moderates. We've already seen Senator Joe Manchin say that he's still worried about inflation, and he's not really buying the argument from Biden and other Democrats that Build Back Better could lower everyday costs for Americans.
Okay, and Alex, what about in the short term? Is the White House worried that, the victory of this legislation passing is being overshadowed by the inflation that is causing pain for people right now?
Yeah, it's a good question because, of course, we have the holidays coming up. People are shopping. There's worker shortages, supply chains issues. So I think that what we're seeing out of the White House is really this full steam ahead push to show off the infrastructure bill and go into communities like New Hampshire and say, we're going to fund to fix your bridges and your roads. And I think part of that is because they are worried that the inflationary pressures and what Americans are seeing in higher costs is going to be a distraction for Americans actually thinking that the infrastructure bill is a positive thing. Because, of course, roads and bridges, those take a long time to fix. The shovels have to go in the ground, and then there'll be maybe some things for Americans to actually see some progress. But I think in terms of inflation, people are seeing higher costs at the grocery store. And so the White House really, I think, is struggling to kind of balance showing off the bill and touting it with just inflation kind of casting a shadow over it.
And Nikole, remind us now that this bipartisan infrastructure bill is already in the rear view mirror, what is in this social and climate spending bill that House Democrats are now preparing to vote on?
So a number of things, probably the biggest line item or one of the bigger line items is a universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. You also have a number of provisions to expand Medicare, more specifically expanding the hearing benefit in the Medicare program, which would be something new. There's also an extension of the child care tax credit, which many American families are receiving now. So those payments would continue for about another year. And then there are a number of provisions addressing climate change, whether that's clean energy tax credits, investments in climate resiliency, given the wildfires and droughts and extreme weather we have faced in recent years. And then, of course, there are also components of this legislation most recently that were added, including some provisions to lower the cost of prescription drugs, also some provisions to include paid leave for families for up to 4 weeks. So those are things that could potentially be stripped out of the bill. But for now, at least in the House, that is the broader package that they hope to vote on sometime this week.
And Nikole, what specifically are moderate Democrats looking for in this Congressional Budget Office report that everyone's waiting for?
Well, basically, they just want to make sure there aren't any discrepancies with the estimates that the White House has cited and that they have put out. Most notably, the White House continues to tout that this bill will be fully paid for. Well, moderates want to make sure that that is the case, and you really can't necessarily assess that fully without this type of Congressional Budget Office score. So that is one of the things certainly moderates will be looking for. And they did say that if there are any inconsistencies, that they are committed to trying to resolve some of those issues. And we have already heard from a number of lawmakers saying that they do want to see the score. We expect that to come out Friday. There are some parts of the score, for some components of the legislation that have already been released, but getting that broader score is critical to many of these moderates, although Democratic leaders insist that, look, they said they wanted some analysis, so they do feel that, kind of what's being put out thus far should be sufficient, that a full score may not necessarily be needed for that full vote, but that is something, moderate lawmakers are standing by. And even in the Senate, many moderates saying they want to see that score to see how this bill stacks up.
And of course, we know Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have already forced the president to scale back this larger spending bill significantly in an attempt to get their votes. Alex, what do we know about recent dialogue between these senators and the White House?
Yeah, you're right. The original target was a $3.5 trillion bill. And of course, we saw it scaled back in the framework that the White House released a few weeks ago to a $1.75 trillion. But we're still seeing, Manchin and Sinema concerned about injecting that much money into the economy. And if that will actually, uncertainty around if that can actually lower inflation and do what it's supposed to do. And of course, those are key, or do what the White House wants it to do. Those are two key votes, as we've said. And I think that just this top line number, even though there's been a lot of concessions for Manchin and Sinema out of the White House, I don't think that I wouldn't be surprised if there are more concessions going forward, because it seems like the top line number is still an issue for them, especially as they, go home, talk to constituents about inflation concerns and rising costs of things like a gallon of milk. They're going to report that back to the White House and say, I still don't feel comfortable with this, or at least that's what I think these conversations are going on behind closed doors.
And so, Nikole, if this bill does pass the House this week, as Democratic leadership is certainly hoping that it does, what could a Senate timeline look like?
So it still remains to be determined. We do know from Leader Schumer that they have actually begun the process of starting to consider this legislation from the standpoint of it has to go through a couple of processes in order to determine whether or not the bill kind of meets these strict budgetary standards that are required under reconciliation. So one step of that process is something called a privilege scrub. And so Leader Schumer says that the bill is undergoing that right now to make sure that the legislation that the House is considering actually meets that test that is required in the Senate for this type of budgetary legislation. And then it will also have to go through another process called the bird bath, and I won't bore you with the details of what that entails. But again, these are all like procedural steps, again, to make sure that the bill meets that reconciliation standard in the Senate, right? So Leader Schumer has said they have also started meeting with the Senate parliamentarian this week to make sure that the bill can clear from that standpoint. But at this point, the Senate is just waiting on that bill to come over from the House. They, too, are also waiting on that Congressional Budget Office score, and Leader Schumer says that will inform their timetable in terms of actually considering the bill on the floor at a later time.
All right, so the bird bath sounds a lot cuter and more fun than it actually is. Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill and Alex Gangitano, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
You bet.